What's good, y'all? Welcome on in. So we all have our favorite Pokemon and our least favorite Pokemon. But today, I'm not talking about favorites or least favorites. I'm talking about Pokemon that nobody really remembers. And how I'm really going to evaluate this today is I'm going to go through every generation and name off the least memorable Pokemon of that generation. It can be whether they had an impact on the games or in the anime or maybe even the cards. But this is just my opinion from, these Pokemon took me the longest to remember. Let me know down in the comments below, each generation, what is the least memorable Pokemon for you? And let's get started with Generation 1. Now, a lot of people are very familiar with Generation 1, so it's kind of hard for me to pick the least memorable Pokemon. Some people said Venonat, Venomoth, but one of the gym leaders has a Venomoth, so it's kind of hard for me to say that. And I did want to say Goldeen, but Misty does have a Goldeen, so it's kind of hard for me to say Goldeen. So I really narrowed it down to Seaking. If I asked most people what Pokemon to name off, I don't think they would say that one. So I think my safe answer is probably going to be Seaking. I don't think it really makes much of an anime appearance or in the games or anything like that. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about that, but I just think Seaking is probably the most least memorable Pokemon in Gen 1. For Gen 2, this one was also hard because there's only about 100 Pokemon in this generation. And I feel like it's hard to forget something if there's not a lot of it. I was going to say Quillfish, but Legends Arceus gave us an evolution for Quillfish, Hisuian Quillfish to Overquill, but we still remember Quillfish. And I would have said Stanler maybe, but Stanler also got an evolution in Legends Arceus. So Legends Arceus really helped out Gen 2. So I think the safe answer, and probably, I don't know if you would agree, can't say Dunsparce because, the Dunsparce. So my answer is going to be Ledian. Yes, the evolution to Ladybug. Now, I was going to say Ladybug, but I feel like a lot of people remember Ladybug, and it was even in the anime intro for Johto. But Ledian, I don't remember it being much really anywhere. I don't know if it was in the bug gym, someone could correct me, but I feel like Ledian is very forgettable. And it's not to be mean, but I just don't really, like, when I think of Gen 2, it never comes to mind. Generation 3 now, this is actually my favorite generation of all time, so it's kind of hard for me to pick a forgettable one. People say Chimecho, but James had a Chimecho in the anime, so it's kind of hard for me to say that as like an anime fan. And Pokemon cards wise and video game wise, I think my safe answer might have to be Gorbeus, the evolution from Clamperl. I think Huntail a lot of people remember, but I don't remember a lot of people talking about Gorbeus. I don't know. Let me know down below how to say this. I don't even remember its name that well, to be honest. I played a lot of Generation 3. Pokemon Emerald is my favorite of all time, so me even saying this is really hard to do. So forgive me on this one, but it's really difficult. I just remember a lot of it. For Generation 4, this is also a tough one because a lot of people remember everything. We just had 2 Generation 4 games in the last couple of years. We had Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Legends Arceus. So forgettable is kind of being, it's a little bit tough. But I think my answer might have to be Chingling. I think a lot of people forget that it's a baby Pokemon that's related to evolving into Chimecho. A lot of people talk about Chingling for, I don't know what reason. I think it's cute, but it is kind of, you don't really associate like, oh yeah, this is a Gen 4 Pokemon. It is one of the babies too, but I feel like a lot of other ones remember. I think Mantike was in one of the movies, if I'm not mistaken, so it's hard for me to say that. So I feel like if maybe, James had a Chingling evolved in Chimecho, I couldn't say that, but it's not really memorable. People could also say Fion. A lot of people don't even know Fion exists if you're like very much a casual Pokemon fan. Because, Manaphy's made a lot of appearances, but Fion is very much like, if you play a lot of Pokemon, you know what it is. So it could be between the two of those, honestly. But Fion could be the safer answer here. Generation 5 introduced the most Pokemon in any generation of all time. So there could be a lot of forgettable ones. So I think what I said with the most forgettable Pokemon from Gen 5. Now, you can't say any of the first routes or elemental monkeys. Those are all prominent in the anime and in the games. And it's kind of hard for me to say really much any of the other Pokemon in the generation in itself. I feel like since in Gen 5, you can only use Generation 5 Pokemon. So I feel like a lot of Pokemon were discovered during that time. Just same thing with the Gen 1, can only use Gen 1 Pokemon. So you remember a lot of them. This is a really tough one, by the way. Like, I just, oh my God. I think my safe answer would have to be like Elgin or Beam, because a lot of people, I feel like I've talked to and asked them about it and they don't remember it. And I feel like if you're a Gen 5 fan, you remember it. I don't remember really any of the games as much. I think it was like a kind of hard encounter and it teleported immediately afterwards if you didn't catch it on the first ball. So I think I have to go with that. Yeah, it's not as memorable. I feel like it's the least one. If I had to pick another Pokemon, you know what, let's just move on to Gen 6. Gen 6 is also a really hard one for me to do because there wasn't that many Pokemon introduced. I think it was only like 60 to 70 Pokemon introduced in that generation. I think it's the least amount of Pokemon introduced in any generation at all. So when you want to pick one of these, it's kind of hard to go through. I think if I had to pick a Pokemon that was the least memorable from there, I think it was Aromatisse. Now, call me crazy, but I don't think Aromatisse is a bad Pokemon whatsoever. But I just feel like a lot of people, I've even asked people on videos to name Aromatisse before in person, and they don't remember its name. I showed them other Gen 6 Pokemon, but they remember them, even Spritzee. But Aromatisse is not remembered. So I think the safe answer here is going to be Aromatisse. You could disagree with me on any of these, by the way. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I would love to hear y'all's opinion. It's not, you know, this is not a final say on anything. This is just me from what I've observed. Gen 7, I think, is going to be a little bit also tough because we're getting more into the recent games. It's a little bit more fresh in people's minds. But I think the least memorable Pokemon from Gen 7 has got to be Delmise, the Anchor. I like Delmise. Even the shiny is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of people can even remember its name. If I told them there was an Anchor Pokemon, they'd be like, what? Even though Delmise is actually the little piece of kelp on the Anchor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's true. But yeah, I think Delmise is probably the safe, you know, answer on the situation because a lot of people don't remember it. And I think nobody really had Delmise on their team. I don't know a single person that's had it on his team ever. Generation 8, now this is getting even more tough because, you know, not the most recent, but we're getting there. And I think a lot of people either played or didn't play. So this one may be a little bit more tough to do. But I've had to go down a list of all the Generation 8 Pokemon. There was a lot of them. There's a good amount. I think the safe answer for this one is Indeedee. I think it's supposed to be like the butler Pokemon. I think a lot of people forget this one exists. I don't remember a lot of people even having it on their team from what I remember. If it maybe just so happened it had a G-Max or something like that, it probably would have been more memorable. A lot of the other Pokemon got a G-Max, so it was remembered. People like Stonejourner, that would have been another one I would have said, but it's exclusive. But I think Indeedee here, even though it has male and female variant, I still think people don't remember this Pokemon as much from Gen 8. Not nobody remembers it, but I think it's just the least memorable. And now the newest generation, Gen 9. Oh my god, this is gonna be so hard to do. But I think this is from personal experience and, you know, from what I've told people. But every single time I ask people to name off Paradox Pokemon, people always forget about Brute Bonnet. Brute Bonnet is the past Paradox Pokemon of Amoonguss. Sus, I know. We can get that joke out of the way. But I feel like a lot of people forget about Brute Bonnet, and so I think Brute Bonnet might have to take the spot. I feel like all the other Pokemon from the generation are pretty memorable. I mean, Orthworm had its own thing. Bombardier was one of the I feel like all the single stage Pokemon were Titans, and that's why they were remembered more, or else it would have suffered the same problem. I was gonna say Veluza, but Veluza is very annoying. And that's only why people remember it. So it's not a loser in this situation. So I think Brute Bonnet might have to take the, you know, take the L on this situation here. Some of the irons can be forgotten because the irons, even though they were all based on some pretty cool Pokemon, the past Paradoxes just look cooler and did better. But the iron one, they did get 2 pseudo legendaries, so it's kind of hard for me to say that they were forgotten. But let me know what you think about this list down below. I'm very curious to see what y'all's responses is. Just to open up a discussion. I'm curious. But be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out any one of our videos here. And I'll see you all on the next video. You all are amazing. Peace out. Bye.